I am so going to miss banging on this gavel. It's an awful lot of fun. You get to make noise, and it's legitimate. You're supposed to do this. Okay, so, all ready? Okay. Dobrodošli na poslednji sastanak Univerzitetskog senata. Okay. Dobrodošli na poslednji sastanak Univerzitetskog senata. So, what language did I use? Hint, it's part of my ethnic background. I always say the same thing, by the way. Someone just mentioned they don't know what I've been saying. You don't? Yeah, I guess I could have been cussing you out. You know. No, I've been saying welcome to the meeting of the Unity Senate. It's so banal. Of course, if you spoke some of these languages, you'd know. Sorry? Oh, so we need a couple more? Oh, a couple more have wandered in. Okay. All right, has everyone guessed? Done your little clicker thing to see? One more time, just in case you need to have that last hint. Dobrodošli na poslednji sastanak Univerzitetskog senata.
Okay, I'll close.
We good?
Yeah.
All right. Serbian, okay? Also known as Serbo-Croatian. All right. So, now that we've done this, I kind of got a little enthusiastic about doing this, but what do you want? Let's do a sound check, campus sound check as usual. We'll do the campuses in alphabetical order. Cynthia, do you want to stand at the microphone? So downtown, can you hear us?
Can you hear that? Yes, we can hear you. Thanks.
Okay, welcome. Polly.
Polly is here, and we hear you.
Okay, great. Welcome. West?
Check.
Keep it straightforward and breviloquent. Good, thank you.
Yep.
And Tempe?
Sure.
Even shorter. Okay. Great. Okay, we did the language quiz. Reminder about technology. If we lose video contact with the other campuses but maintain audio, we just keep on going. If we lose audio, we take a 10-minute recess while we try to find who the person is who pulled out the plug while the technicians try to solve the problem. If we can't find the person who pulled out the plug, then the meeting is adjourned, okay? We have very good technicians, you know, and they have plug-sniffing dogs and things, so we'll find you. Really busy agenda today, very busy. So first I'd like to welcome the chair of the Arizona Board of Regents who has agreed to come speak to us. So Regent Mark Killian, thank you for coming to talk to us. Come on up, we're ready for you. We're ready for you. Yep. We got work to do. We don't waste time here. We just get right down to it.
Well, actually what she was saying is there's Krispy Kreme donuts in the back of the room. That's what she was really saying when she was speaking to us, but I had that on good authority. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you this afternoon. Hopefully I'll say something to you that is helpful. And had a nice lunch with your leaders, and I look forward to sharing with you some of my thoughts. First of all, let's talk a little bit about the legislative session and the black and blue marks that we have. And it's the first time that I can remember in a long time that we got a great big goose egg. And it's pretty frustrating, to say the least. And lots of press about what happened and what was going on. And so we're doing a lot of soul searching right now about what it is that we can do differently in order to affect our policy leaders as we go into the next session. And we've having a number of discussions with university presidents and the regents, and I'm going to tell you what I think and how I think we can impact the policymakers. I'm constantly amazed at the work that goes on at these universities, the projects, the research, the way we deliver education. And to some degree, I feel like we're the best kept secret in town. And Michael's heard this speech before, but I feel as though we do a great job of communicating amongst ourselves about what we do, but for some reason we have a difficult time conveying that to the policyholders or the policymakers and the people that affect them. And so we need to do a better job of letting the public know what all you do. And there are some absolutely fantastic things going on at these universities. Today at lunch, we had one of the researchers come by and tell us absolutely fantastic thing that he's working on as it relates to Ebola. And I told him I wanted to bottle him and take him down to the Capitol just so that they could hear the progress that's being made. It's a miracle in the making. And so we have a challenge, and here it is. Simply stating, we have a number of legislators that feel like the university, its only job is to transfer knowledge from professors to students. They don't understand the concept of creation of knowledge. I don't know how that's gotten lost in the shuffle, but the creation of knowledge at our universities is just as important as the transfer of knowledge. It's the creation of knowledge in the universities that has advanced our civilization. And so we've got to figure out how we can convey that message to our policymakers. And the best way we can do that is by giving examples of the knowledge that's being created at these universities. Everything from what we're doing with the Department of Defense, the Mayo Clinic, bioscience, to Ebola, to artificial pollen, to whatever it is, it's significant. And what a vital role that plays in our society. And I think if we are effective in doing that, that maybe we can change the trajectory that we're on. Which means each of us who are familiar with the universities, we have to inform our friends, our neighbors, talk to everybody we know, get in front of groups, educate, and let people know what we're doing. That's how we're going to change it. I don't know any other way to make the changes except electing a whole bunch of new legislators, and I don't see that happening in the near future. So the deck of cards has been dealt to us, and so we got to figure out how to shuffle that deck in our favor. And I'm just telling you how I think that's going to happen. So whatever we can do to make that happen, as the regents, we are going to work with the presidents and I don't want to call it a PR campaign, but in an information campaign to see if we can't drive the policymakers in our favor. We can't sustain these cuts anymore. We can't do this to our universities. We just cannot. We've got to convince these policymakers that we are not cost centers. We're investments. We create jobs. We create wealth. We create knowledge. We are not an expense for the state. And so we've got some work to do on that. Aside and apart from that, tonight we're having our tuition hearings. And after those hearings tonight, then we'll decide where we're going on tuition in the next week or two. Aside and apart from that, we've got a number of other issues that we're working on as it relates to the universities themselves. And I want to compliment your president. He's doing a wonderful job. He has changed the way people look at delivering education here in the United States and across the world. And the agreements and the work that he's engaged in with other universities around the world is an example to the rest of higher education. And as far as I'm concerned, the rest of higher education, the way they're going, they're a bunch of dinosaurs. And someday they're going to wake up and say, well, why didn't we do what Michael Crow was doing? And so I'm grateful that Michael's staying here and working with us and willing to put up with all the falterall that we have in Arizona. He's a leader and is a benefit to our state. And I think most of you feel the same way I do, that he does a great job. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about what's going on with the universities and the regents. I'd be happy to do that. And just tell you how much we appreciate all the work you do as professors, as teachers, as researchers. You're the glue that keeps this place together, and we appreciate you very much. Answer any questions you might have. I can see I just wowed you. There's just... Any questions? Sure.
Okay, we'll just go to the various campuses. Again, in Tempe, if you have a question, don't raise your hand. Just walk right to the mic, and that's how we'll know you've got a question. Are there any questions from West?
No questions, Holly.
Okay. Any questions from Polly?
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. So if the senators of the state think of what we do here as the transfer of knowledge, and you're expressing the creation of knowledge, why is it they do not value that and fund us? And, you know, they're cutting our, you know, they're still, not just us, all the universities and all the education, they're cutting the budget to the transfer of knowledge. Do they not value this?
Tell me your name.
My name is Heidi McElroy.
Say that again.
Heidi.
Heidi. Okay, Heidi.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had the answer for you, okay? But I can tell you this. You have some legislators down there who suggest that we have too many people in college in Arizona. Okay, now, let me repeat that again. Okay, I want to repeat that. We have some legislators that believe we have too many people going to college in Arizona. Now, you explain to me how you deal with that. Okay, I don't know how to encourage a person like that to have any kind of positive relationship with the universities. When I first heard that, I was absolutely stunned. Arizona has one of the lowest college going rates in the country. And so the reason I tell you that tells you some of the mindset that we're dealing with. Okay, Heidi, I wish I could say 99.9% of the legislators are in our team and they're with us. There are a number of that do support the universities. But those that are in key positions right now, they just have this, as I've said, this animosity toward us that is unexplained. At least I can't explain it. And so that's why I'm so frustrated with where we are. Again, Heidi, if you take everything that these universities do, and by the way, the universities do pay taxes, which is, we're one of the few states that charge university taxes, by the way. But you look at all of the jobs they create, all the money that comes in through research. You look at the spin-off companies that come from the universities. You take all of that and all that economic activity that comes from the students that come to these campuses, and that dollar that goes through the economy is enormous. But you just have legislators that look at us like we're a bunch of commies under every bush, okay? And so I wish I had a better explanation for you. I am as frustrated as anybody. As a conservative, and I mean I'm a Rush Limbaugh conservative, okay? I'm as good a bomb thrower as there is. But I'm telling you, I know the value of a good thing. And these universities are a good thing. And why my fellow conservatives can't figure that out is beyond me. So Heidi, I wish I had a better answer for you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any questions from downtown?
No questions downtown.
Okay, we've got a question from Tempe.
Hi, Jenny Bryan, Barrett Honors College. So I guess it was 2 weeks ago, Governor Ducey asked the ABOR to develop a new strategic plan. I was wondering if there was anything you could say about that. Will that be more substantive plus marketing or messaging, or what? Is there anything that you can share with us?
Well, we're trying to get from the governor just exactly what he means by that, okay? Because we feel like we do have a strategic plan. We feel like we do operate like a business. These are giant businesses. And so we're trying to get from him a more refined approach to what he means by that. And so, you know, one of the things he said, I want you to run the universities like a business. We do that, okay? And so I didn't want to embarrass the governor in front of everybody. And so we are working with his staff to find out just exactly where he's headed with that. Now, does that mean that we're perfect? Does that mean that there aren't places where we can improve? Absolutely. And the nice thing about this Board of Regents and these presidents, we're always pressing to be better. And we've said this to Michael, we've said this to Ann, we've said this to Rita. Being an also-ran university is not acceptable. We want to be the very, very best in the country. And whatever it takes to make that happen, that's where we're going. That's what they hear from us all the time. And so if you feel like Michael is going 1,000,000 miles an hour, doing 1,000 different things, the reason he's doing that is because he's feeling the pressure from the board that is saying, we want to be the best. Now figure that out. So I think once we've had a chance to get with the governor's staff and work through them in detail just exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it, I think that they'll come to a better understanding that these universities are operating very, very well. They're not top-heavy. In fact, when you look at the statistics and the numbers as it relates to administration versus the number of students, we're way down on the list. And so, so we've got some work to do there. Do we mind being challenged to look at what we can do better? Absolutely not. We'll take that challenge any day. So that's where we're headed. Okay?
Thank you. I think there's another question from Tempe.
All right, my name is Shuki Hamel. I'd like to thank you very much for the hard work, and for the first time I feel that we are on the same page, fighting the same struggle. And so you have all my support personally, and I think everybody speaking here. And one, I want you to tell us how we can help in this fight. Second, actually, I am disturbed. I'm disturbed because I study democracies, and I feel like this is really, it will affect our democracy. And I also feel that these key political leaders, they see us as we are producing liberals. And this is a political decision to silence us. Thank you.
Okay, let's take those one at a time. First of all, the first thing you can do, and we talked a little about this at lunch today, I would encourage the university to do what happened 10 or 15 years ago. They used to have little coffees at professors' homes or employees' homes in the legislative districts. And the employees and the professors would get together, invite the legislators over, and they would just chat. Very friendly chat. I went to a number of those, and they were very effective. Okay? It's very difficult to strike out against someone that you've met and you deal with, that you have a relationship with. And so to a lot of legislators, we that work in government and around that, we're kind of nameless, faceless bureaucrats. So it's easy for them to say, okay, they're a bunch of bureaucrats, who cares, okay? So I would encourage you to do that. That's number one. Number two, in the overall struggle of philosophy and where we are, the republic that we belong to, the democracy we belong to, the reason it is so strong is because the founding fathers believed in education. They knew that educating the masses was the secret to a free society. Education has been the great equalizer. And for some reason, somehow, some people feel that public education, whether it's K through 12 or the university systems, is bad, and they all want it to be private. Okay? They make no bones about it. That's where they're headed. That just happens to fly in the face of Jeffersonian model of education. We believe that we need to make education accessible to everybody. So we deal with that. Now, what about a bunch of commies being bred here at the universities, okay? There is a perception that, that some legislators have that we don't have enough conservative faculty, or there's not enough conservative thought and philosophy being taught at the universities. And so we've talked to the presidents about that, and we're trying to tackle that issue from a perception standpoint. And that's just a reality of we have to deal with. We have legislative leadership that are very, very, very conservative, and we have to understand that. We have to address that and work on it. So a number of the regents are working to see if we can't figure out what we can do so that those conservative legislators see us as a university as a benefactor for them, that they can come to the university and get research and things that they believe in and that they support. And if we can do that, support that, maybe we can build some bridges there. Okay? So whether it's reality or perception, that's what we deal with. So that's, if you've got any ideas on how you can help us make that happen, we're all ears.
Thank
Yes.
you. We have time for one quick question.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your outspokenness about criticizing the governor's budget. I think that's really very much appreciated by everybody here and so forth. I just want to share two things with you. One is I don't think we can run a general fund on a $9.2 billion general fund, and I think legislators, including the governor, have to realize that we have to increase revenue somehow. Otherwise, we're always going to be playing a zero-sum game, and it's not going to help Arizona raise our per capita income. The second one is just, I was recently at a political science conference, and I found out in the state of Washington that the legislature is under contempt of court for failing to fund public K-12 education. And we already know that our legislature is sort of really tight on whether it's following the Arizona Constitution. And so as you think about your legal remedies, you might be asking the court to place our legislature under contempt of court if they're not willing to comply. Thank you.
Let's talk about that for a minute. Courts are very happy to place legislative bodies under contempt, but that's about all they do. And a good example of that is right now, I guess the state is not following the court case as it relates to K through 12 on the inflation dollars. And so the judges will go so far, but it's a separation of powers issue that we deal with. And so it's frustrating, okay? I mean, that's just something that we deal with. As far as the budget goes, you're right. Arizona is right where it was in 1983 when I first went to the legislature as a very young man. And we were growing. There wasn't enough money in the budget. The new access program had come on, and a very conservative legislature raised taxes. We did a temporary sales tax in '83. We came back in 1984 and made it permanent. Now, 75% of the legislators that year, when they ran for re-election, were elected the day they turned their petitions in. No one ran against them. Because most people in Arizona looked around and said, we're growing. We can't get by with what we have. Now, we've had 25 years of tax cuts. There is not a single state in this country that has done more to cut taxes than Arizona. And the great question all of us we have to ask is that policy, and by the way, I helped start that policy. I'm not apologizing for it, but what I am saying is, has it worked? Have we brought businesses to town that we wanted to by changing the fiscal policy of the state? I'm here to tell you no. Okay? So there needs to be a change. There needs to be a re-looking at that policy. And so hopefully that's going to happen. Now, last thing I want to say, and then I'll sit down, because it's dangerous to give a recovering politician a microphone. I want you to put all this negative stuff out of your mind for a second. I can't think of a better university in America than this one right here. And the things that you folks are doing are nothing short than miracles. And I mean that realistically. You look at how you're changing the dynamics of our freshmen and how they're succeeding. You look at the types of people that are coming to this college now and the broad range of economic classes that are having education. The whole concept of inclusion rather than exclusion. The whole concept of helping people be successful. I can't think of another university where I would want to be a part of than this one right here. And I want you to know how much I appreciate what you do and how you do it. And you could probably be doing 1,000 other things making a heck of a lot more money than what you're doing right here. But what you're doing here is changing lives. And when it's all said and done, that's what education is all about, is changing people's lives. It's knowledge. I'm so proud of my daughter, my oldest daughter. She's a teacher. And she teaches at one of the charter schools, and she teaches 2nd grade. And she comes home every night, and she'll tell me just the struggles that she has as she's working with those kids. And the frustration she has with parents and different things. But I'm so proud of Kathy that she's willing to go back there every day, in spite of the lice, pink eye. She had a little girl show up at school the other day with her backpack full of all of her clothes. And Kathy said, "Why do you have all your clothes with her?" My mommy decided she didn't want to be a mom anymore. Mom took off. Kathy had to call her grandma to come pick up the little girl. The social economic challenges that we face in education today are nothing like they've been in the past. So my kudos to you is thank you for what you do. Thank you. As the chairman of the Board of Regents, on behalf of the Regents, I want you to know how much we appreciate what you do. I just wish there was more I could say or do to express that to you. And appreciate the fact that you're here at ASU, that you're trying to help Dr. Crow advance this new American university to the benefit of the people that come here. And with that, I thank you very much. I love those. Cream I said that. So listen, oh my God. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Regent Killian. It feels a little bit like our legislative session, the tuition setting and all of that has turned into the Hunger Games. And now I'd like to present our candidate in the Hunger Games, President Michael Crow.
We're from District 12. We politically finagled both of our candidates to live, if you'll remember from the book. So thank you, Regent Killian. Regent Killian's from a pioneer family here in Arizona, been here for many generations. He's a rancher and business person, and I can tell you from working with him the last several years, he's deeply dedicated to the success of this institution, which is his alma mater. And he is working very hard. He has, obviously, as we all have, been surprised by the, I think more than anything, the lack of strategic thinking, I guess is what I would call it. So in Arizona, we have 200 individuals in college per 10,000 residents. In Utah, there are 400 per 10,000 residents. And in some states, there are 700 per 10,000 residents. Now, that statistic alone is one of two statistics that I think should garner a lot of attention from policymakers and from citizens. The other is the per capita income in Arizona, per capita GDP, I should say. So the gross domestic product, the entire size of the economy divided by the number of people, gives you a per capita GDP number. And for at least the period 1950 to 2000, Arizona was above the national average. Since 2000 has been a steady decline below the national average. Those two statistics alone should be looked at, analyzed, correlated, evaluated, and strategies remedying those two statistics should be implemented in wave after wave after wave. And so what I can tell you is that Regent Killian shares our views, and also is very, I'll just add, very empowering of our approach here at ASU, our approach and our style of engagement. And so those are two, I think, very important things. I thought rather than repeat some of the things that I said just recently when I appeared before the University Senate, I would just be open to answering any more specific questions or any other questions for that matter that you might have about where we are. We are approaching a difficult moment. We are requesting of the regents the ability to raise tuition one more time. We did not raise in-state tuition last year. We've only raised in-state tuition by about 1% in the last several years per year, so we've kept that at a very, very low level, even below cost. We are asking to raise out-of-state tuition by 4%, which will keep us in the lower half or around the 50th percentile among states charging out-of-state tuition. And we are asking for about a 10% increase for international students. Now, we are 8th among all universities in the country in receiving international students right now, and next year we'll probably be around 5th. And even with this tuition adjustment, among the top 25, we will be 22nd in cost. That's before they adjust their tuition. And so we'll be even at that level. Now, what that means then is for those students, those families are making unbelievable investments. I say to one of my relatives the other day, what do you do? And I said to them, I said, well, I sell Maseratis. What do you mean you sell Maseratis? Well, for an international family, sending a student to ASU, the cost of completing your degree at ASU is above the cost of a brand new, unbelievably equipped Maserati. Income or below averages for tuition under $400. These are significant numbers and significant ways in which we work. Now, let me give you one of our challenges. And I've mentioned this challenge to you before, but let me just give you a challenge. So in the present structure of the finances of this institution, it costs X to educate a student. From an in-state student, we receive tuition, $10,000. I'm rounding the number down. We receive Can you guys still hear me at the other places? Just wave. There we go. And so let me just finish this before this thing poops out here. So our investment from the state, how many of you read about the 2% cut? It wasn't a 2% cut. The cut per student, per in-state student, was 15% in the investment from the state. So that 15% reduction, as well as the fact that most of our students can't afford the $10,000 tuition, and we find financial aid for them, and I'm not talking about loans, I'm talking about grants, means that our operating loss for each and every in-state student is more than $3,000 per year. For 50,000, give or take, in-state students, you can calculate that very quickly. Even engineering faculty members, 3,000 times 50,000 looks a lot like 150 million. Operating loss, day one, admission of in-state students, an operating loss of $150 million. That means then that we have to find other ways to finance and run and build the university. And our model, again, lowest possible cost for in-state students, average cost for a world-class research university for in-country students, and low cost among elite universities for international students. That's our strategy. if we all work hard, which we have been doing, and I know that, I'm picking up on some signs of fatigue within the overall enterprise, like how much longer can we make these adjustments and do this and do this and do this and do this? And the answer is, well, probably forever. And so we've just got to make all of this work, keep our students on track. I will tell you one interesting thing that I don't think I mentioned last time that we were together that is very exciting to me because it's an example of your all's effort. So our 4-year graduation rate just passed Purdue University. Our 4-year graduation rate substantially passed Iowa State University and is an inch below the University of Texas at Austin. The 4-year graduation rate has doubled since 2003. This is a significant achievement. Purdue, like ASU, admits A-level grade point high school students and B-level grade point high school students, although we admit a little deeper into the B-level group than they do. And we've passed their 4-year graduation rate. Texas, at Austin, only admits A-level students. And we're just an inch from their 4-year graduation rate. Now, this is a symbol of a product of innovation and creativity on your all's part. And it's a significant achievement. It's a very significant achievement. And that, by the way, is using the federal government's definition of a 4-year graduation rate, which isn't even fair, but particularly unfair to us. If you leave the university to go back to a community college for a semester and come back to the university for whatever reason, you're a dropout. The 4-year graduation rate means you started as a freshman and you graduated in 4 years and you went nowhere else, you did nothing else. And so for a university like ours, which is very complex and moving and flowing and churning in lots of different directions, that's a hard objective to attain. And so we have attained it. So with that, we have.
Do you have time for questions?
I have 17 minutes before I have to be on a phone call with other university presidents and the board president, which is different than the board chair.
Okay, we've got a question in Tempe.
Hugh Barnaby, electrical engineering. So and I'm going to address some of my comments to Regent Killian here. First of all, with respect to the issue related to conservatives in the legislature not believing that we do, that we have some kind of liberal agenda, I would encourage them to come see what we do in engineering. Okay, so that's really upsetting. And to the engineering,
Hugh, that's only 17,000 students. I mean,
so to the engineering point, we fund these international students by and large. We pay their tuition out of our funds. The university,
graduate students.
For the graduate students that we get, which is probably the lion's share in engineering of the international students, the professors who get money from federal grants have to pay these students. So we're the ones funding these Maseratis in engineering, okay? It's not all these other groups, it's us. And when it goes up, whatever it's going to go up right now, 10% on their tuition, it's going to cut into our budgets. This is ridiculous. And it's been going up and up and up and up and up. And so it's killing us, it's strangling us, and it has to be dealt with. And I would like to give you a story, just a little political story, because I was at a restaurant, 2 friends of mine, conservative, they come to me and they say, I can't believe how much money we have to pay for our kids to go to Arizona State. All you ever do over there is teach anyway. Why is there so much money? I'm saying, you're getting taxed. I mean, you are getting taxed because the legislature cuts taxes on everything else, as you said, cut it for the last 24 years. But you're getting taxed because you have to pay more money for tuition. And they need to understand that. I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but these guys need to know that, these people over there. And I want to know their names. I want them published. I want their names publicized so we can actually find out who they are and embarrass them. Because it's likely that some of these people that I know who are just are completely disconnecting the amount of, their legislator from the fact that they're getting taxed more because they're trying to send their kids to school. So that's all I have to say.
There's a little delay here. Are there any questions from West?
No questions here, Helene.
Okay, any questions from Polly?
No questions here, thank you.
Okay, and from downtown?
No question. Oh, we do have one question.
There is a question. Okay, go ahead.
This is Barbara Fargenstein, and I don't have a, well, I guess it's a question for either Michael Crow or Regent Killian. At what point do we consider our ethical obligation to the citizens of Arizona to prepare the future citizens to maintain some semblance of culture as opposed to this business model everybody keeps pushing? Because we know businesses go out of business all the time, but I think obligations stay for a lifetime. And I'm just wondering, are these other factors considered along with the bottom line?
Well, the answer is hyper obviously yes. I mean, we to suggest, I mean, I actually don't use the term that we run like a business. We're neither the government or a business. That's why I use the term enterprise. We are a public enterprise with a public purpose. The public enterprise here has the purpose of knowledge creation, knowledge synthesis, knowledge storage, knowledge transfer, all of those things. We produce three very, very complex products: people, ideas, and things. Those are, and so the terminology sometimes breaks down with the use of those terms by other people. I refuse to use the word business. I do not use it in any articulation of anything we do. I only use the word strategic enterprise framework. I use the word enterprise, enterprise, enterprise. I refuse to use the word government. I refuse to use the word agency. I refuse to use the word corporation. We are none of those things. We are a people created by direct democratic action, public university operating in an enterprise model. That means we are not reliant on the government nor operate as a bureaucracy under the authority of the government, because if you operated with all of the resources from the government, then you would operate as a government entity under their authority. And so I think that we're in agreement that what we do, by the way, maintain all of our humanities disciplines and art schools and music schools and all the other things that are cut and annihilated in public K through 12 operations, which, by the way, are government schools. Those government schools, under their boards, reliant completely and totally on government resources, cut out all of those things that are at the heart of our culture. They cut out all of those things that are at the heart of the most critical thinking aspects of what it is that we're trying to do as an institution. And so with us, we have not retreated from any of those things, nor will we retreat from any of those things. And so this notion, and this is a nomenclature that we have to be very disciplined about, and we try to be very disciplined about it. This is not a business. There are for-profit businesses in this education realm. They are nothing like us. They are highly differentiated from everything that we stand for. And there are government-only universities and schools, which are also highly differentiated from us. They are largely politically driven enterprises. They largely are responsive only to political inputs and to political manipulation. We're not subject to that. Yes, we have a funding issue with an investor, the state of Arizona, which should be making investments in the institution. But this institution, and the regents support this, this institution is led by us, the people that are making up this room. We determine our academic destiny. In fact, the board has been unbelievably generous to the universities by allowing the universities to plot our own academic course, to design our academic programs, to maintain our programs, to evolve programs, to make our own decisions. In most public bodies of more government-oriented universities, every program is scrutinized by political authority. Every program is not scrutinized by political authority here. Authority has been granted to the institution. Resources are problematic. But we're finding ways around that. We're not done being creative. We're not done making our case. We're not done going back to the people. and to their representatives and making our case for the resources that we think that they should be investing in. So perhaps an overly long answer, but it was the governor that said we need to operate more like a business. Regent Killian already stated, and I couldn't concur more, that if you want to measure how we're operating and compare it with businesses, but without being a business, we're very effective. We're very efficient. We generate a substantial return on the family's investment that a family makes to send a child here. On the state's investment, the return to the state is unbelievable. To Professor Barnaby's comments about research, to the government's investment that they make here in science and technology and so forth, the return is unbelievable. And so when somebody says they'd like us to operate like a business, you're never going to hear me say ever, that operating like a business is what we should do, because then we would be a business. We're not a business. We're a university. We're a public enterprise. And I know that those are like perhaps subtleties, but we're not the government either. So it should be clear to all of you that we don't report to the executive, nor would you want to, nor would the executive want us to report to the executive. Then we would be an agency of the government. And that's not what we are, who we are, how we operate. So.
Okay, there's one more question.
I'm Marjorie Baldwin from Economics, and two comments. One, last time you were here, you...
Marjorie, we know each other, so.
Yeah. Last time you were here, you made a comment about somewhere back east where all the grass is green in the university and the campus is beautiful. And I just want to say, our campus is beautiful.
Yes.
And I really appreciate what you've done since I've been here in 2002. Just anything that was unsightly is now gone, and it's beautiful, and it matters. And so thank you for that. And secondly, with respect to the comments made about us being ambassadors to the community, I've been in groups where they have said, those outrageous tuition increases, and all you do is raise tuition, and I don't have a good answer to that, and I'm wondering if we could have a set of bullet points, just a sheet of bullet points, like what you said today, so I can respond and I can say, hey, look, we have hardly increased in-state tuition in the last many years.
The bullet points we can get you are the bullet points of the actual cost to the in-state students for their tuition, which has been kept very modest after grants. And so we invest by our design a huge amount in financial aid for both merit-based financial aid and need-based financial aid. If you perform well in high school and you're an in-state student, you get merit-based financial aid. If you have a financial need because your family is making below the median income, then you have ways to acquire need-based financial aid. And so we have made all of that work. And so one of the things that people talk about, I mean, we're dealing with people that actually have said to me, well, we gave you all these cuts during the recession and you didn't do anything. Actually, we eliminated 1,800 positions, including 1,200 people that were in those positions, and 600 vacant positions that we never filled again. So those are people that are uninformed, have no idea really what they're talking about. Some of you will remember the furloughs. Some of you will remember the years without salary adjustments. You'll remember all these things that we went through to make adjustments to this, the adjustments in structure and design and so forth. And so sometimes, I mean, I just have to tell you, Marjorie, that sometimes these are, some people, the model that they have in their head is very simple. They think the state makes a cut and therefore we raise the tuition. We've never replaced more than 1/3 of any public cut to the university with an actual tuition increase. We have replaced it with structural changes, budget changes, enrollment growth, which is not the same as a tuition increase. Those are not the same. And a range of other things. And so the dollar for dollar, even now, the $320 surcharge or temporary fee that we're going to charge in-state students for 1 year, that's $320 against the $1,200 taken away from each in-state student. The other, almost $800, is being made up by other things, including cuts. And so we can get you information about what we've been doing.
Yeah, I'd just like to be prepared to give these responses.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And as you go represent us, District 12 in the Hunger Games, please know that we've got your back.
So who knows what District 12 is? All right, the rest of you need to read it.
Thank you very much.
I want to go back to 2 points. One, engineering. Okay.
Barnaby.
Professor Barnaby, you need to know who your legislators are, okay? And you need to write them or call them and say, where are you on higher education? Everybody in this room needs to do that and find out where they stand. That's the first thing you need to do. And ask these questions. It is true that when the cuts they make, they are raising taxes on the families because we've raised tuition. That's just the reality of what's going on. Just like they took all the money away from the community colleges, what's going to happen? They're going to raise property taxes. They've taken money away from the counties. They took money away from the courts. There's a cost to that. And so as the regents and the universities, we have been very good at shielding the policymakers from the cost of their decisions, okay? That needs to change. When I was in the legislature and we did things, you heard in a big hurry. I remember when the teachers protested me out in front of Mesa High where my kids were going to school, okay? They all wanted to kill me, and we made up, okay? But I felt that. My daughter came home in tears. Dad, what did you do to my teachers? You know, that needs to return. They need to feel the consequences of their decisions. And I think that would help us move this thing along. Now, I want to go back to the one thing about the ethics of what we're doing. What was the name of the lady? What was your name that talked about the ethics of where we are?
It's Barbara Fargenstein and out of nursing.
Okay, Barbara. There is an ethical standard at which this state needs to operate. That ethical standard goes along with, as a state, as a community, in preparing our children for the future. And right now, I think we're missing the boat. And I see nothing wrong in raising ethics as a reason to help our children, because they're our future. So don't be bashful about that.
Oh, I'm not.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, President Grove, Regent Killian. Very informative. And now, usually at the last session of the Senate, we have a report from our faculty athletic representative. So we're ready for the FAR report. Our FAR is Jeffrey Wilson from economics, correct? Whoa, be careful there. We need you holding in one piece. Thank you very much, Professor Wilson.
Good evening. I'm sorry I'm not going to be as informative as the two persons that just left you. I'm here to tell you a little bit about athletics. I've been on the job now for about 8 months, and I want to share a little bit about the things that have happened then, tell you what I'm about, and then take any questions you have in the shortened time that we have. I took over, was assigned in July 1. I took over in August 1. And I see my role as making sure that the student athlete get a good education. I see it, my role as making sure the things that happen in North Carolina and in other places are to make sure that those things don't happen here, because you will be certainly embarrassed. What have I done in the last 7 months or 8 months since we are now in a predictive, because I'm a statistician, I have asked for all the data for the last so many semesters for the 80,000 students, but also with their athletes in mind. And from it, I will use my ability to use predictive analytics. And with the predictive analytics, when we finish the model, hopefully at the end of the summer, we will be able to see trends, we'll be able to attach probabilities, and if a student athlete miraculously was getting D's, all of a sudden start being an A student, there'll be a lot of questions that can be asked. And so if you have been following, you know what happened at North Carolina Chapel Hill is an embarrassment, not just to the athletic department, but to every faculty member there. I wouldn't like to be a faculty member at North Carolina Chapel Hill and then have those kind of things going on. I would really feel bad about it. I know you have heard many things happen in the athletic department over the last few weeks. I just want to make sure you understand. I don't hire basketball coaches. I don't hire swim coaches. I don't do any of that stuff. I don't even ask who they are. I don't even ask the process. Whenever I see the athletic administration, I remind whether swimming is still doing well, whether tennis is still at 1,000 points, what are we doing with men's basketball, what are we doing with men's football. When I took over, I went into I asked to see every coach, not because I want tickets. I don't want any tickets. I'm happy to pay for my own. And even when the Pac-12 gives me a ticket, I make sure it's in the bleeding section where I need to take my binoculars. But when I took over, I went to Coach Graham's office. I asked to have a one-on-one meeting with him. And when I walked in there, he said, tell me something. What is a FA? I've never met a FA before. And I said, welcome to someone who's only interested in the academic well-being of the student athlete. And so we had that discussion. We had same thing with the basketball coaches. With every coach that's hired, I make sure, I don't want to know. People ask me, do you know who the next coach is? I don't know and I don't care. Once they are hired, I want to see them very early to understand what is their commitment to making sure the student athlete is get the best education. When I was in the NCAA meetings in January, I spent a few days there, and the best thing that ever happened since I have been far, and I took a text, I sent a text to Jerry Kingston, to Gary Grossman, to Mitzi, to Miles, and to Somersault, all the previous living FAs. I didn't send any to the dead ones. Ease up, there's no dead one. What was that? And I tell them history was made because at the January NCAA meeting, what we had was a case of a student athlete would get a scholarship. And when that student athlete gets a scholarship, if after 1 year that student athlete isn't as good as the coach thought, that student athlete wasn't told to leave, but was encouraged in different ways to leave. You know, when you and your chair get away, or your chair still let you teach, but you teach at 6 o'clock in the evening or 8 o'clock, same kind of thing. You still get playing time, but you get playing time when we are 50 points ahead. And what was passed in the NCAA, I thought was a very, very great time for student athletes, for sports, for past FAs and everything, that once you commit to a student athlete at their freshman year, that student athlete will have that support regardless of whether he can run like me or he lost the ability to do something that you taught. And that was great. The other thing that concussions and things like that, making sure that they are beyond after they leave here, how they'll be taken care of. That pass, all these things pass. The one thing that we left Washington, D.C. worrying about, and I'll tell you a little bit about the Pac-12. Put my shirt on, I need to shut up. Was time demands. One of the things that interviewing our student athletes, we find out that many of them, 20 hours a week is their limit. But many of them found that they couldn't do anything else. They couldn't become part of campus. They were sleeping all the time and all the other things to keep up with their grades and so on. And so we have embarked on trying to find a happy medium where student athletes' time demands, and that's really a challenge because we have had surveys and interviews, and we are still going as a conference, as a Pac-12 conference. We are still looking to see how that can deal with. We here at Arizona State University had our student athletes tell us what is important to them, what is not important to them. We got a very good return on our survey, and we are dealing with those things. I thought, what am I going to say to you when I come today? Will I bring to you for those of you who have been around in Kingston days, you don't have to put on your hand. We know what Jerry Kingston gave you, all that data. I have that data if you need it. You can email me if you have a question or that sort of thing. I didn't feel that you wanted to be part of my statistics class, so I didn't want to bring you all those numbers. But to let you know, the department is probably, I have been here 30 years, and I've been around athletics for the last 12 years, and I became the fire in the last 8 months. And I will tell you, there is no better time that the student athletes have been served other than now. From top to bottom, they have made a lot of changes over in athletics, and the student athlete, I'm talking from the student point, student athlete, I see the student first. From the student point, I'm happy to say that yes, the best gift you can give a student is an education. And yes, they're doing a good job doing that. Our graduation rate continues to rise. I look at every morning, I get a note if a student athlete grade changes. If a student athlete grade changes, I get a note every morning.
We got 2 reports for us, the High Performance Computing Task Force and then the Research and Creative Activities Committee. Chucky, you're up next. You're after Joe.
Okay, I'm going to give a brief report on the High Performance Computing Task Force, which was formed in December, and we met through the semester. A report with far more complete information than I will provide here is already available on the, posted at least,
yes,
on the Senate webpage, so you can get more information there. Which one is it? This one? Right. So the task force consisted of these members. There were 4 members from the Research and Creative Activities Committee, 4 members from the University Services and Facilities Committee. We also had a member from the library, and we also had 2 representatives, one from the Provost Office, and of course Frank Timmis from the A2C2 or the HPC facility, both of whom were providing advice and good information. There we go. Let me just briefly mention the growth or the history of the HPC. Starting in 2005, there was a substantial growth in high-performance computing. Clusters across the campus were consolidated into a controlled environment. Users could purchase cores and receive from that credit in terms of CPU hours so they could run their jobs with otherwise no particular limitations. Users could pay by the hour used, 2.5 cents per CPU hour to begin with. Some years later, that was changed to 1 cent per CPU hour, and the actual cost recovery went up when they did that. There was the ability to obtain 10,000 CPU hours per year through a proposal for free. The cores expanded from about 400 to over 6,000 by 2009, and the usage increased consistent with that. Now, starting in 2008, of course, there was an economic downturn, and that resulted in a lot of difficulties. Dan Stanzioni left, and there was a delay in getting a new director. A major user group pulled out because they got their own facilities that they could run around the clock in an environment that was more favorable to them. Other users also began to find other resources. Cores aged, the computing cores aged, and were not being replaced. And the number eventually of usable ones initially fell to about 1,500. There was a usage decline also from about 2 million CPU hours in the spring of 2012 to about 500,000 in the fall of 2014, factor of 4. And the staff declined from 11 to 2. There's been reports or anecdotal reports that there were faculty candidates who lost interest in ASU because of the weakness of the computing facilities. As a result of its decline, the A2C2 facility said that the model that was being used was not sustainable, and a new one, do that. There we go. And so a new program was announced last summer. In that program, users had to pay $1,000 per core for every core that they might use any single job simultaneously. So if you needed a job that ran 100 cores, you would have to have an upfront fee of $100,000 just to begin to run the job in the first place. That gave you unlimited access to those cores for a period of 5 years, and they were basically they were available for you to use under that matter. The university has been adopting a 2-for-1 matching, certainly during this initial period. That may change in the future, but at the moment that's what they're doing. The cores would be unrestricted for 5 years. Then the user would have to buy new cores in order to continue to use the facility. There was no pay-per-use option. That was later, reestablished. It was taken away and then reestablished in December as a result of discussions. But that's only for the current Saguaro cluster, which is a really shared facility. And the free use that had been there originally was disbanded. The task force looked at some problems associated with this community cluster model. There are several difficulties. First of all, which you would recognize, is the high cost of entering into the system, and the very, very high upfront cost, and that is already precluding people from being able to use the facility in the first place. The second deficiency is that it becomes inefficient, or your effective cost goes up substantially if you're going to use a number of jobs that require fewer cores. If you have to buy 100 cores in order to run a 100-core job, but most of the time you're running 20 cores, your effective cost that you paid up front is now much, much larger. And so that's a deficiency. And the third deficiency is that after 5 years, there is no guarantee that a funding agency is going to come through and provide the resources to replace the cores, that have, gone out of maintenance. The funding agencies may have other priorities and interests, or they may not have the budgets for doing that. So, in fact, the task force believes that the community cluster model is not itself sustainable. So we have developed a different vision. And the vision, I reported at the last meeting, says that HPC and cyber infrastructure must be seen by academic institutions as fundamental tools and resources that are to be as ubiquitous and available as networks, telephones, and basic utilities. In other words, the HPC at ASU should be part of the university infrastructure on a par with the libraries and buildings. It's just part of what we have around here that we have to work with. This is conditioned for a couple of this is promoted for a couple of reasons. One, HPC is a rapidly growing activity, not only in universities, going all over the place, but also out into businesses, out into government agencies. And because of that growth, more and more people, more and more big databases are going to be available. They're going to be used, and the students have to be trained to use those, whether they're going to be in universities or elsewhere. So, as part of the of this vision, we realize that we have to expand beyond the basic activities that the HPC is currently used for, which is largely in the STEM area, the sciences and technology, engineering, and mathematics areas. It needs to spread across the entire university. Indeed, if you look at the funding agencies and supporting universities that are supporting HPCs, it's the non-STEM areas that are undergoing some of the largest growth curves, with regards to the use of HPC. We looked at such things as history, social sciences, the arts, anything that might involve big databases. All of those areas are going to require HPC. That's the direction that people are going. It's going to start off in a small basis at this point, but that's the direction we're going to be going. Such activities here at ASU are already underway. We just saw a certificate program that's been proposed, and that was on our agenda today. And as I say, there's strong growth nationally, and we think that actually ASU can become a leader in the national community if we really begin to focus on some of these other areas. Yeah. So we came up with a number of recommendations. There are 8 recommendations. I've got 5 of them here. The first is that the university needs to move rapidly to pick up this vision, make the HPC part of the university infrastructure. The second is that there is a special option that we were looking at very closely. More details are in the report. To look at cloud computing, a way in which we can have access to cloud computing, maybe at a very reasonable way and cost. It's probably most suitable for the non-STEM areas. Some cost estimates indicate that it's not going to be particularly useful for the power users. We need to expand the cores to the $5,000 to $10,000 range, which we had in 2009. But the key thing here is that we need to change the community cluster model. We have to move to a system in which we have clusters of shared cores, and that people can maybe buy in to that, but they get CPU hours rather than exclusive use of certain cores. And along with that, we will also have to have pay-per-use and free access in order to really stimulate and make available the HPC and stimulate its use. There's going to have to be some concerted effort to go out to these other academic areas and bring people into the fold and really get them interested and working on that. I think that can be done. It's a place where ASU can really take a leadership, I think, because we're already starting along those lines. And I think there's a good foundation, people already here that can do that. And I think it's a great way to go.
Thank you.
Questions? Yeah, questions?
I think you can. The report will be up on or is already up on the website, correct? Yes, so you can read through it, and if you have any questions or any comments or anything, that you can just contact Joe directly. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. Chucky.
I think only a few people left. I promise I will not be as long or as complicated as the previous report. But first, I'd like to honor the members of the committee. It's Richard Herrera from Tempe, Deborah Upston from Downtown Library, and David Martinez from Tempe, Stefania Traconia from Tempe, Ed Etting from Tempe Library, and Teresa Folger from West, and our librarian Jim O'Donnell. He's ex officio of the committee. We are happy to report that we have actually a spectacular librarian. I think you all have met him, maybe you know about him by now. And so we thank the administration, only one member is here, for this great hire to you. The report is 3 sections. One is the goals of the new librarian. He promised to find ways to enhance service and make people aware of the services that are available. For priority purposes, he will advance the discussion for the reinvention of Hayden Library that fits in the new American library, university. He also promised one thing that I like to repeat the words is everybody gets what they need immediately. Also, aside from unique materials and such as archives and special collections, everything else should be digitized, as far as one of the points that he emphasized. The second section of this report is that the library is looking into devising new ways to assist the library systems to better advise faculty to encourage their students to use library resources. The second point, to assist the library to address the needs of our diverse student population, to provide equal access to library resources no matter what the student's circumstances are, such as visual impairment or hearing impairment, etc. To enhance equal access to all library resources, including access to personnel who support students via the internet. Another point that I'd like to mention that is in progress now is that the library is exploring a university-wide open access policy initiative proposal and may propose it to the Senate in the fall. One of the points I also like to emphasize is that the library is service in progress. I just mentioned one point and the rest is posted online. The status of the library pilot program to stream videos faculty place on reserve for their students, in case you're aware of it or want to know. The ASU libraries will continue to the streaming video course reserve pilot service through next year. The service has proven to be both popular and beneficial to our faculty and students. The library is currently updating policies, workflows, and improving access and performance to ensure streaming video course reserves to meet the goals of each instructor. So this is the report, but the complete one is online. So I was brief.
Thank you very much, Chuki. Sherry, Personnel Committee?
Hi, yes. This year we did the policy on career paths for non-tenure eligible faculty, and the administrative response came up with an amazing policy that was more than we hoped. We had no consensus on an administrative request for about subsequent promotions. That will be on the agenda for next year. And I wanted to thank the committee and especially Chuck Barbie for all of their hard work and assistance. That's it.
Thank you, Sherry. And now the Student Faculty Policy Committee, Alejandra.
Yes, thank you. Well, as everybody probably knows, Len Gordon was the chair of the Student Faculty Policy Committee, and after he passed, I took over as chair. So we continue to try to honor the work that he did throughout the year. The committee was very active. We were able to pass 3 motions, including the one today. Remember, pass that motion on how long we had to wait when a faculty is late, the motion on academic dishonesty, and today on changing the hours to get honors. We're going to continue to work on 2 issues. One is that we have to work with Kevin Cook in his office to implement the academic dishonesty. We need to work with various colleges to find out how their appeal process is and who's going to represent the colleges in appeals processes, and we give due process to the students. So that work is going to continue through the summer. And one of the things that we started working since last year and continue to work this year is on student debt and trying to get some reprieve, especially for students who major in very necessary areas but that don't make a lot of money. So, and another thing that we'll continue to have to work on next year is on the issue of scheduling. That's it. And I thank the committee very much because everybody worked really hard. And I appreciated the help they gave me in the last month to trying to get the committee working, and especially Pam was incredibly very helpful, and Chuck as well. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Alejandra. And again, we thank you for being willing to step in at the last second. So we We appreciate it very much. Thank you. Chris, Committee on Committees.
I'd like to share some key activities from the Committee on Committees this past year. The committee, first of all, helped staff the University Senate committees last fall, including the University Facilities and Services Committee, Personnel, Student, Faculty Policy Committee, and others. Thank you, Senators, for your interest in serving on these committees. In preparation for the spring election, the committee obtains nominations for campus president-elect, as well as nominees for the elected committees such as Governance, Grievance, the Committee on Academic Freedom and Tenure, etc. From this pool of nominees, we are able to hold our annual elections. The committee recently surveyed the Academic Assembly regarding their interest in serving on the committees listed in the Provost roster of boards, committees, and councils. These committees involve faculty and academic professionals from across the university. Selections for these committees should begin soon. And finally, the committee also organizes and oversees the spring Academic Assembly elections, which will begin shortly. The election announcement will go out tomorrow, listing the candidates who are running for campus president-elect, as well as the elected committees. Voting will begin on April 28th and end on May 6th. Thank you to everyone who's willing to stand for election. There are people who are integral to the work of the committee, such as Chuck Barbie, Pam Hoyle, Elizabeth King, John Prue, and Linda Glover Barnett. These folks help the year run smoothly. Thank you very much. I'd like to also thank the committee members. We operated with a smaller than usual committee this year, especially in the election preparation phase. In addition, I'd like to thank the campus presidents for contributing to our efforts this year. We here at the Committee on Committees love committees. If you've been keeping track, I said the word committees 22 times in the last 2 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. I know this is real intensive work that you do, and it's really very much appreciated. And now, Kathy, can you give the CAPC report?
During AY 2014-15, CAPC will have convened 8 meetings. We reviewed 69 curricular proposals to date, with an additional 8 proposals scheduled for review during the final meeting on April 30th, bringing the total to 77 proposals reviewed. During the fall of 2014, CAPC reviewed 45 proposals over 45 meetings, and in the spring of 2015, CAPC will have reviewed 32 proposals over 4 meetings. As of April 20th, 2015, CAPC approved 68 curricular proposals and denied 1 curricular proposal. During the AY 2014-15, the University Senate voted approval of all CAPC-approved curricular proposals. Agendas and minutes from each meeting can be accessed from the CAPC website. This report is online, and the link to the CAPC website is listed there. CAPC ran smoothly, due in large part to the dedicated work of Phyllis Lucy, Senior Program Coordinator, and our assistant, Laura Leo. In addition, the apt work of the video conferencing team enabled CAPC members and proposers to participate from their most convenient campus location, greatly reducing time devoted to travel. Thank you to all the committee members. That's it.
Thank you, Kathy. So thank again to all of the committees. There's also the Governance Clearinghouse Committee, but they don't usually do a report. Just trust me, they worked like really hard this year. But all of the committees did. I'm going to do just a tiny little bit of a change in the agenda. You all should have found recognition certificates, really lovely certificates at your places. And I'd like to thank Pam, because she's the one who designed them, put them together, that kind of thing. So, Pam? Pam just started, she's just completing not even her quite first year. We haven't scared her away yet, but she's been a totally great asset to the Senate. So we're very happy to have you here. And now, Brenda, I got something for you. She gets to bang the gavel now. I don't get to do it anymore.
So, well, before yours. Bang the gavel, we have a gift for you. And this is a plaque that we
would like to give to Helene, and it reads, Helene Osipov, President of the University Senate and Chair of the UAC 2014-2015, in gratitude for your outstanding leadership of the University Senate and University Academic Council and your unrelenting commitment to shared governance at Arizona State University. Merci, Madame. Yes. So as my first order of business, I hope I represent everybody well in the fall. So our first meeting will be in August, but my first official duty is to adjourn the meeting. We are adjourned.